everybody. Welcome to this beautiful Sunday. You're going to hear some wind today. You're going to hear the auto cancel. You can see, a very beautiful day. Even though it is very windy and it is chilly. It's 50 degrees, but it feels more like 40 because of the wind. I'm wearing 3 layers of clothing, and it's just barely keeping the wind from making me cool, so I should be fine. I'm also not wearing my neck collar that I usually wear when it gets cold. Kind of weird weather coming up. We're expected to see 71 degrees here in Maine on Halloween. It'll probably be a record warm temperature. New York's going to see 80, 81. So I don't know what's up with that. But hopefully that continues over the winter. That would be nice. We had one year a few years ago where I think it was at least 50 degrees every day until almost the end of February, or halfway through February. We didn't have any snow, and what little snow we got in between melted the next day. It was nice, and but that is very rare, far and few in between here in Maine. So I guess you'll find out what kind of winter we're going to have, because some of it I'll be walking in. But anyway, we are on our walk today on a Sunday. It is the 27th of October. It is getting close to the election, and as you can see, when the walk started, it is very windy today. And this is what I was telling you. Sometimes we'll get like wind and it'll blow all the leaves off the trees and ruin the fall foliage, but we were just about past the foliage anyway, as you can see. It's pretty much all brown, dead leaves now. So it's officially looking more like Thanksgiving, even though we're just getting up on Halloween. So I'm going to turn the camera around. Hi everybody. Hope everybody's having a glorious, beautiful Sunday. God bless you and your family and your loved ones and your neighbors. Boy, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now, in a good way. I got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Now, you're going to see me duck from the wind here, which is why I didn't walk yesterday. This is pretty windy today, but compared to yesterday, it's not very windy. I mean, we had some serious wind yesterday, 40, 50 mile an hour gusts, pretty steady wind of about 25 to 29. It was let's just say everybody's Trump flags were flapping like crazy. There we go. Sorry about that. We had something on the lens. I don't know what it was, but I didn't want to play that back when I got home, and it was like, oh my God, that was on there the whole walk. All you see is a big blur where my face is. Anyway, it was very windy, and the sun feels nice right now. As you can see it up there. It follows me everywhere. So I'm going to talk today a couple of things, mainly about the election. Obviously, it's a big deal this year. I'll just start off by saying it looks like the Republicans are going to win the Senate. Of course, nothing is written in stone until after the election, obviously. Same goes for Trump. But the Senate looks really good. And we may do well for the House also, Congress. So here's the deal with Congress. We need to win Congress too. Trump needs to have all the tools he needs for a great revival in this country, to save America, basically. And normally I would tack on some kind of party divisional thing, criticize the Democrats, and they're a lost cause, okay? We know what they want, and if I keep repeating it, it's more of the same thing. If you're watching me right now while I'm walking, you already know what the problem is, so I don't need to beat that dead horse. So anyway, Trump is doing a rally today in New York, Madison Square Garden. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people outside going in. And the last live feed I saw before leaving was from inside. Looks like it's filling up. It's going to be a really good rally. And the media is going full-blown propaganda today. It's almost too much to even stomach without vomiting. They are panicking, they are scared, they're worried that their installed candidate that didn't get one single vote isn't doing well. And Trump is now leading the national popular vote, not by much, but to put this in perspective, when Trump won in 2016, Hillary was leading the national popular vote by 6 points, and Biden was leading it by 9 in 2020, and he almost lost. And Hillary did lose. Not very much has changed since 2016 or 2020 in the battleground states that are needed to win with the Electoral College. So Trump is in absolutely wonderful position. The best he's been in yet. So, brings me to my next portion. Yeah, but, here come the yeah buts. Yeah, but they cheat. And they do cheat. So I want you to do something that I usually don't do on my walks, and I might do a lot more of in the future. So I want you to pray. Pray to God that the cheating in Pennsylvania specifically is found, has light revealed on it before the election, and these people get caught publicly with their hands in the cookie jar before the election, not after. They get caught after, we know what's going to happen. The bureaucratic BS is going to bog down. Democrats are going to sue. Activist judges are not going to rule in favor. You know how that works. We've seen them do it. They're all corrupt. It's corruption. So, you need to pray. Prayer works. I don't care who scoffs at that. I really don't. I'm at the age now where I really just don't care. So, if you're a believer, pray. And something happened in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which was big news that the national media is trying to ignore, even though some of them were forced to write about it. Mainly because of, hate to say it, but Fox News. Fox News covered it. Yahoo News actually had it on their news service. So it has been out there for people to see. So if anybody tries to tell you that's conspiracy, blah, 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 well, just find an article. It's not hard to find. But Lancaster, Pennsylvania, a private company, okay, a canvassing company, a company hired by the Kamala campaign from a super PAC. Okay, it's from a super PAC. They're not associated with the campaign legally, but they represent the campaign. You follow? They take donations and for the candidate. They pay for commercial TV ads. So, you know, a PAC, super PAC. Anyway, they got caught cheating in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They got caught registering thousands of new voters. Not hundreds, okay? Thousands. The exact number is not known, but they did find 2,500 illegally made out voter registrations. Now in Pennsylvania, it's not illegal to pay people their signatures to sign petitions and to register to vote. So what you do is you have a petition, who cares if it's accurate, fair, whatever. So you have a petition that you legally file, and then you get people to sign it, and you can compensate them for them signing it. It's legal. There's a handful of states where it's not, but there are many states where Democrats actually pass laws making it legal, and there's some states where there's no laws on the books at all. So by default, it's legal there. Pennsylvania is one of those. So the problem is they violated election law because they made up the names on them. They made up the birthdays, and they made up false social security numbers for the registering to vote. And they got caught, okay? They got caught. The local election committee found these ballots, not ballots, okay? I just have a habit of saying that because we're used to talking about ballots, but voter registrations. False voter registrations. And initially, from the information I have, they're not all Democrat. They're not all Republican, and they're not all independent. It looks to me like whoever was doing the canvassing was just out to make money, because the more signatures they get, and they pay people to do it with super PAC money, they get paid like a commission. So the more false registrations they had made out, the more money they make. So that's what's happening with that. The problem is these people have been doing it since June, and they're not the only ones that are doing it. They're the only ones that got caught. You see what I'm saying? So it might be a widespread problem in Pennsylvania because it's a battleground state. You know, some of the cheating is probably going to be organized, some of it not. But I'm telling you about people that were just detained. They're going to be charged with election law violations, felony counts, falsifying social security numbers, falsifying birthdays, falsifying signatures. And one of the people registered, not one, okay, the article said several of the people registered, several, that their detective investigation has led them to, have claimed that that is their birth information and that is their social security number, but that's not their signature. So these people stole people's personal data and were having false voter registrations made. So that is fact. It was in the news. It was about 2,500 registrations. 60% of the 2,500 registrations were fake. 60%. So that's not good, because they've been doing it since June. This was only one batch of 2,500. So these people must have done thousands of them. And this is just one canvasser. So these people will be caught, they will be prosecuted. But here's the real problem. Fine, they found 2,500 voter registrations now who are not going to be able to vote by mail. But Pennsylvania law has it where there was a deadline to register to vote, and that's probably why these guys got caught, because they made a large dump at the last minute before the deadline, try to make as much money and cheat as much as possible. So they overextended themselves because of greed, and they got caught. Now they're going to have to investigate that to see who was paying them to do that, and then they're going to have to go to court. Then they'll probably want a plea deal, and they're going to give up whoever it was that had them do that, if anybody. But by then the election will be long over with, you know. So that's just what we got, folks. We can be upset about it, we can be angry about it, but the fact is we're in it, and there's not enough time left to change anything. And I'm assuming somebody in those counties, and you know, Lancaster County in Pennsylvania is important because there's 360,000 voters in that area. So it's a big deal. That's why they were cheating there. So imagine that going across the whole state in all these places. And so that's just one of those things that you can't do anything about it right now. That's just the way that is. So anyway, one can't cry over spilt milk. And I don't like it because, let's say Trump loses Pennsylvania by a razor thin, well, that's where they cheated. So it matters. It all matters. That's why Trump has been issuing those statements, like he did recently again, that people caught stealing and cheating in this election are going to be prosecuted and they're going to get long sentences. That's what he said. And I support that 100%. And I'm sure you do as well. So that's where we are right now. I'm getting this walk out of the way today so I could get this walk out, go home, take a shower, watch Trump in Madison Square Garden. It's supposed to be on around 5 o'clock. He always runs late, but I got plenty of time to walk my walk and do my thing. So anyway, it is a beautiful Sunday today. And I'm sorry the trees aren't going to be as pretty to look at now. Pretty much this huge windstorm we had yesterday took care of the rest of that. And then that's just what we got. So anyways, I'm warmed up now. I got a little bit of a sweat going. And so we're gonna walk. Excuse me. I had some rice with some vegetables, and I had some homemade tomato sauce from scratch. It's very good. I put just the right amount of Italian seasoning in it. It was delicioso. So anyway, we're in full swing right now. Democrats are in panic mode, and they're trying to put on a good face about it, but they're panicking. They're panicking really bad online. Some of these younger voters especially, they don't understand how Trump could be where he is. They were told a whole different story. And you know, that's their own personal choice. They went and watched that garbage and let it poison their mind, and well, life's lesson learned. Of course, we haven't had the election yet, as we got this Trump sign, Trump flag right here. Love that flag. And I'm gonna walk down this way. I mean, what do you tell these people, you know? They don't listen to you. They've been programmed to not listen to what you have to say. They've been programmed that you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a liar, a thief, a Nazi, a Russian bot, a Russian. And they've been programmed to disregard anything you have to say, even when you're telling them the truth. They don't want to hear it. So, I don't know what else to say about that. Nothing can be said about that. So, suffer the masses, I guess. So, anyways, Trump's at Madison Square Garden today, and it's a big deal for New York State. This is going to be a huge success. There's thousands and thousands of people. I guess there's going to be some musical entertainment at this one. And, of course, that's what the liberals are going to say online, that he had to pay for people to perform. So, which is actually what Kamala was doing. Which reminds me, she just had a, she just did a rally, and the Kamala campaign made it sound like Beyonce was going to perform at her rally. It would be a free concert, and that's how it was reported in the media. Turns out Beyonce showed up, said a few words, and then left. Didn't perform. Chaos ensued after. Kamala's young people were so pissed. They were angry. They were booing Kamala. I even saw a clip of she looked like she was about 20, 21. She's yelling right in the face of a small child. This black woman got in between her and said, hey, she's a baby. What are you doing? So these people are rabid. They're angry. They're upset. We still have our Trump signs. Right here, see that? Vote for Trump. And a lot of people there voting for Trump. You see that? So this is awesome. So, you know, the media keeps saying the polls are tight. The polls are tight. Well, when you look at it on websites and stuff like that, it looks like the polls are tight. And, but they're not really, because Trump's leading in all of them. And we already know they're going to underpoll for Trump. You know, he overperforms on all of these polls. I think people know that. That's what I was getting to with the Hillary being 6 points ahead in 2016, Biden being 9, or vice versa. I think Hillary was 9 points ahead in 2016, actually, and Biden was 6 or 7 in 2020. And you know, he barely won, and Hillary lost. So it's one of those things where they just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it is just in somebody's DNA, because the person doing the polling is voting for Kamala, so the company doing it just does a biased poll, either unintentionally, just by default, because they don't like Trump, they hate Trump. And who wants to make a poll saying Hitler is leading? They don't want to do that, so they don't. So I think a lot of it's human nature. I think some of it is intentional bias, like the new ABC Ipsos poll that just came out. It says Kamala is surging ahead at the last minute. They just put her ahead 4 points of Trump nationally, and they're the only company that's done that. Trump's doing fine. So they tried the John Kelly story, the Nazi thing, Hitler generals. They tried all that bullshit. It's not working. People have heard it already before. They've already heard it. So they even tried to wheel out another sexual assault accuser. That didn't get no traction either. And I'm sure they're going to try something else between now and, you know, they get next weekend. Next weekend's the last news weekend. That's the last news cycle. So whatever the You know, like the Hollywood Access tape, I believe that came out about 2 weeks before the election. Because you need to understand, you need to have something come into the media, and they need to spend like a week pushing it. And then it takes a while for people to digest it and say, is this true or isn't it? So they need a couple of weeks. Well, they don't have 2 weeks. Their John Kelly story didn't have any traction or any teeth to it. Their Project 2025 thing that they've been pushing the entire election cycle, I don't know how much traction that had. I don't know if it did any damage or not, but I do know that Trump's more popular than he ever has been, so maybe it didn't. Maybe people just know the media is full of bunk. Because they are. So anyways, it's really incredible. Maybe the Democrats should try to do something like not install a candidate without a single vote. Maybe that would have helped them a lot more. Pretty sure it would have. So anyway, that's where we are. I don't know what's going to happen between now and election day. Pretty much the last of the polling is getting done right now, and you know, they're going to say Kamala is surging. That's what they're going to say, and the honest ones are not going to say that. So I already have my list of four honest pollsters that I use. They have been the most accurate since 2016. Atlas Intel is one of them. Rasmussen, who is an independent pollster. And what I mean by that is he's not funded by anybody. He's independently run, and he does love Trump. But I have watched their polling for quite a while. I really have. And I have noticed that they nose is running today. So take two. So anyway, what I was saying is that Rasmussen, for a lot of this year, has had Biden ahead of Trump, even by a little bit, pretty much all year long, until that debate happened. And then Biden's numbers did go down. So, you know, I used to get frustrated because I'd get the Rasmussen email and I'd be, how the F can Biden possibly be ahead of Trump by a point or 2 points? I just couldn't see the logic in it, how can that be? Well, he was being honest about it. So, as frustrating as that is, and right now he's got Trump ahead by 2 nationally, and it takes a lot to change numbers by even a point these days, this close to an election. So these are pretty much the numbers that are going to stay the same unless some big, huge, actual, real bombshell or an act of God circumvents Donald Trump. So, and that stuff kind of scares me these days with all the really good AI stuff that they have. They have been trying to tie Donald Trump with Epstein and Epstein Island for a while now. What happens if somebody has like an old video on VHS, maybe, probably would be the case. A VHS tape, it's kind of grainy. I think they only had like 280 to 400 and 240 and 480, I believe, screen resolution. Real small picture. So a lot of times when you'd see it on your TV, it'd be kind of grainy. It looked good, but it was, you know, edges were kind of fuzzy. Especially when you play it on a digital TV screen, flat screen. So anyway, the point I'm making, what happens if an old VHS tape of some guy raping an 11-year-old girl with Epstein, let's say somebody leaks that tape out to somebody, that person takes it, because I'm sure those tapes exist, and that person takes it and digitally with AI puts a younger Trump doing this to that girl, and it looks real. These people with AI are really incredibly good. Do we have a media right now that's not going to run with that until it's verified that it's been faked? No, we don't. They'll jump right out with it. They'll apologize after the election, after Trump loses. Oh geez, we're really sorry. We thought it was real. Oops. I would not put anything past these people, because that is something that definitely would cause millions of people not to vote for Trump. I mean, probably overnight, like flipping a switch. If the media made it look like it was a real, and it really happened, and they have an anonymous source to back up that it happened, by the time that was all cleared up, fixed, it would be too late. I think you and I know that. And it would be irreparable. The election would be stolen. It would be tainted. And I'm pretty sure when the truth came out, there would be so much rioting and anger. And I don't encourage violence. I really don't. But I won't know how I feel about that unless something like that happened. And then the truth came out. I'm sure I would be seething with anger. And I would be blaming the media for it. I think the media needs to be very careful, because the American public has had a belly full of the media lying. That's part of what caused January 6th, the so-called insurrection. Trump just gave a speech, you know. He felt there was dishonesty in the election, and that's how I feel too. And people were being censored on the internet, accounts deleted, suspended. The media's lying. Nobody has any voice. Nobody had a voice. So frustration builds up. A lot of people honestly believe the election was stolen. And instead of doing what the government should do, which is to calm people down and say, look, we'll prove to you it wasn't stolen. I promise you. And they could have said something like, well, we understand how it could look that way. We'll do what we can to remedy that. Please be patient with us. We're a democracy. No, of course they didn't do that. They just said, oh, you're an election denier. Oh, that's it. You're suspended from your accounts for even talking about it. People got angry. Very irresponsible. So, I guess the point I'm making is, if there was no cheating, and you seem so sure of it, why don't you prove that there wasn't? Just prove there wasn't. Right? So, nobody went out of their way to prove anything. So, because they don't care. They don't care. So, anyway, that's the point I wanted to make about that. So anyway, what I was saying is you need to pray for election fraud in Pennsylvania to be revealed. I've been checking out a lot of these prayer groups online, and a lot of people have been praying about that, and some of this election fraud is coming out in the media. People are getting caught, so make that of what you wish. So, anyway, the other thing that nobody really talks about too much is the Senate races. That's going to be a big deal for Democrats. So there's probably going to be some dishonesty involved there as well. And I think that one of the biggest seats they want, because they're trying to flip the state blue, is Texas. Texas and Florida. So in Texas you get Ted Cruz, and he's one of those people where a lot of people don't like him. They just don't like his personality. I think he's an okay guy. I think his heart's in the right place. I think sometimes he doesn't do or say things he should. But anyway, they want Texas. The Democrats want Texas. Texas is a big, huge electoral college count. You know, if they could add that with California, then they could start working on Florida. And you know, that's the other thing too, is where are a lot of these illegals being deposited? And they're being deposited in states that are battleground states. Now, even if these people never become citizens, they're never given amnesty, and they're not allowed to vote, they have children. A lot of these foreigners will have 8, 9 kids, big families, because they still do that like white people used to do in the early 1900s. You follow what I'm saying? So, because you had to do that to keep your family strong, because you needed a head of household. If something happens to the father and he dies, you need an older son to take care of the family. And so that was an investment in your family back then. Like if you had a farm, you need people to work it, milk the cows, bale the hay, and everybody did a part in that. So they had large families. So these illegals are going to have large families. And the law, the way it is now, if you're born on American soil and your parents are illegals, you become a citizen by default. It's a birthright. And to a lot of extent, I don't have a problem with that, because they didn't come here illegally. They were born here. I really do think that's different. But the point I'm trying to make is the Democrats have imported all these people specifically for that purpose. And they're going to become voters. So they're investing in their future. Someday, and you know, again, we don't know who these people are going to grow up and vote for. A lot of these people are going to be happy with Democrats for giving them rent rebates and welfare, and you know, so the Democrats think they can just buy votes. I don't know how much that'll work, but a lot of these people that come here want to start their own business. They want to live the American dream. And that also cuts into a lot of immigrants that have come here illegally and they have their own business, because they're paying taxes, they're doing all kinds of stuff, and now these illegals come here and it's undermining their business. It's taking their money. I like that one.
Most people do.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's a lot of immigrants here that are here legally and they've become citizens. So now they are American citizens legally. They earned it. They went through the process. They have their own businesses. And so with that, they're not happy when these illegals come here and steal their business, undercutting them because they charge less money. So these illegals are here doing business illegally. Think about it. You come here, you end up getting welfare, food stamps, health insurance, Medicare. You get all this stuff free, cell phone service, everything. And then you're out working on your own without reporting it. There's no taxes, you don't have to pay taxes, you don't have to pay into Medicare, Social, you don't have to pay into anything that you're using. And on top of that, you're cutting into local people's self-employment. So, I mean, crazy, right? crazy to be upset about that, right? I mean, you got your own business, you got to pay taxes, you have to insure your business, and these people don't have to do any of that. So they just show up and mow your lawns, and you know. And if you were smart, you wouldn't use those people that don't have insurance, because what happens if there's a serious injury on your property because of them? You get sued, you know. So anyway, so there's a lot of problems with that. And again, you know, we want everybody to come to America and enjoy the American dream. Legally. Legally. Come here legally. Go through the process like everybody else. Cutting in front of line just pisses people off. So, and then you have the added problem where if you're running a country in Central America and it's costing you millions of dollars you don't have to feed prisoners in prison, maintain the prisons, I mean, what are you going to do? If the United States border is open, what would you do as a smart leader? Well, I'm going to send all my criminals to America. Let it be their problem. And those are the ones that Trump are calling animals, and we need to round up and get them out of the country. We want good immigrants here, good people. We don't want the garbage from other people. Now, Trump just said, you know, Kamala Harris and Biden are using the United States as a garbage can, throwing out the world's garbage into the United States, so it'll be our problem. And he's right. So that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about all immigrants. Most of these immigrants are good people living in an unfortunate place. That's who we want here. But we don't want to just grant amnesty to everybody that came here, not knowing who they are, why they came here. They came from a mental asylum. They're a serial killer that was in a prison in Venezuela. I mean, it's a big problem. And that's why we've seen the crime. I saw one article, it wasn't an exaggeration. 72% of the violent crime in New York City was being done by migrants. 72%. That's the violent crime. And that's an accurate number. You can check that out. If anything, it might be 75%. But it was 70-something%. So those are real numbers, and I'm sure that's echoed in Chicago, Los Angeles. And the other thing I've seen is there has been a huge increase of Trump support in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles area. It's not being reported, but it's on the internet. You can see it for yourself. It's not propaganda. It's people that live there. People are openly displaying Trump signs in neighborhoods, and they're Hispanics. The Hispanics have had it up to here with Democrats, and so Trump's not going to win California. But this Trumpism is important because House seats. Now, California has a lot of people living in it. They have a lot of districts. They have 55 electoral college votes, the most in the entire country. And they have the most representatives in Congress as well. A lot of them you hear about in the news because they're really terrible, but there's a lot of Republicans that are just quiet. They do their job as a representative, and you don't really hear much about them in the news. But there's a lot of them in California. There's a lot of purple counties in California, and there's a lot of red ones. So when you have a national populist like Trump, who took the time out of his schedule to pay attention to California, and he did a rally there, that meant something to these people. And he did it in an area that can help Congress. So when Trump wins, he's going to need Congress and he's going to need the Senate. Now, I'm pretty sure he's going to win the Senate. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to get too high on that, but my best guess is anywhere from 52 to 56 seats for the Republicans. More than likely, it'll probably be about 52. But that's a majority. That puts an end to Schumer's bullshit, at least for a while, till midterms. So we'll have a couple of years. And the other thing is Trump's going to need Congress. Because what's going to happen, okay, is if the Republicans don't get the Congress, what's going to happen is they're going to spend all their time obstructing Trump, passing legislation to prevent Trump from doing what he wants to do. There's going to be lawsuits filed. There's going to be salacious accusations against Trump to impeach him. It's going to be the same circus, but even worse, because what they really don't want now is, okay, Trump wins, he's president. They can't do anything about it. So that's all they'll have at their disposal. And they'll have the media as well. Every little thing Trump does, they're going to criticize at levels we've seen before, probably worse. And what they're going to do, really, is they're trying to prevent a Republican successor. So whoever it is that ends up running for the Republicans, they're going to tag Trump along with them and their record. So they're going to do that with DeSantis. I think DeSantis is well equipped to deal with the media, but he is not well equipped to have ridiculous false accusations and charges against them legally. Whether they're true or not, you'll have to go to court and prove it, right? So the good news is DeSantis doesn't live in New York. He lives in Florida, so that would help him. Now, you would have people doing other things, probably target his kids. I don't know where his kids live or anybody in his family lives. But, you know, these people are evil. They're awful, and they will do that. The other thing is if you have J.D. Vance, who's going to run, they'll do the same thing to him or anybody. Vivek Ramaswamy, even RFK. They tried to do things with him, too. Right. So that's the kind of thing. It's the kind of thing they're doing. We see them doing it, so there's no reason to stop after Trump is out of office. After he wins the presidency, is there? This is the new thing, the new normal. The only way that stops is for Trump to do a really good job with that as president. And do a really good job as president, which I'm sure he will. Now, there's this thing I'm concerned about. It's not talked about by the media, and I really wish they would. Is BRICS. BRICS, it's called. Okay? I don't know if you know what BRICS is. It's an international organization having to do with finances and financials. Vladimir Putin is with that. Vladimir Putin is part of that. So is Iran, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, and for the first time, they're being joined by Turkey. Why is this a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because it's basically an axis of evil coalition with the sole purpose to undermine the American dollar and crush the American dollar. And they are feverishly working on that to make their standard of currency the gold standard for the world, and the American dollar rendered basically worthless. So that is a real danger to us. And unfortunately, so we got this pumpkin bag here. Somebody bagged up leaves like a pumpkin, which is probably a good idea, except that it's windy, so it's not a good idea. Anyway, bricks, B-R-I-C-S it is, B-R-I-C-S, you want to look it up. And that is basically the main purveyors of that is China and Russia. And you throw in Iran and Indonesia and all these South Asia region. I think the United States dollar would collapse, and if that happens, there goes your retirement account, there goes, I mean, everything would be worthless. I'm not joking. It would really be a very horrible, horrific thing. It would, you know, Trump has equated it to, it would be equal to losing a world war. You know, we saw what happened with Germany after losing World War II. Europe basically kept the country broke. People were hungry and starving for a long time. And that happened after World War I also. And that's actually what led to World War II. Hitler, a populist, came along and revived everything, severed his ties with Europe. And we would have to do the same thing. Now, I don't know if you're into profits or not. I'm still kind of iffy about this guy, but I did validate for an absolute fact, okay, that some of the stuff he prophesies is real and has really happened. The most famous one being, this is the guy that predicted Trump's assassination attempt accurately. He even chose the correct ear and said the bullet was just gonna almost kill Trump in his ear, and he said that Trump's eardrum was gonna explode. Well, that wasn't completely accurate, but he described the whole scene on the stage. He said it would be at a rally. He said the bullet would go by his right ear, almost killing him. It would injure him, and he would immediately go down on his knees on the stage. And at that moment, accepts God as becomes born again, basically, is what he was saying. Like never seen before with Trump, which has actually happened. So that's true. And he described that whole thing. He did that on March 14th, okay? And I watched the YouTube video of him saying that on another person's religious show. And there's no denying it. That really happened. He really said it. He said over the summer, he said, and he did this with his hands, over the summer, the legal stuff is they're really gonna try to do something with Trump, which is what happened. And then he said, towards the fall, he said it's all gonna go away. Trump's gonna win the election, he said. And then he goes on to talk about other things that quite honestly scared the crap out of me, because he was right on that one. He said a couple of years into Trump's presidency, the economy is going to collapse. And it won't be through any of his fault. It'll just be the collapse of the dollar, which is why I was talking about that. And we're going to have shelves here with no food on them. It's going to be worse than the Depression in the 30s, he said. And he said the good news is it'll get fixed. He said Trump is going to team up with the financial centers, and we're going to come up with our own currency again, but it's going to be digital currency. And we're going to partner with Canada, Mexico, and Central America, and anybody else that wants to get involved with it. And he said America is not going to be as big and strong as it used to be, but it'll be very good. He said this is all good news. I don't want to bring it as doom and gloom. He said it's almost like something that has to happen in this country to fix it. He said Trump is going to lead a revival of this country like not seen in decades. And I believe that. So I'm just telling you what he said. He also mentioned a couple other things, and again, this is just some guy that's a prophet. He does have some that are very accurate. The Trump assassination attempt is one of them. Now, he didn't talk about a second assassination attempt, and he didn't talk about Israel getting into a battle with Hezbollah in Libya, but I don't know how that stuff works, but I know he was right about the Trump thing. Scary accurate, scary accurate. Right down to the ear and the lobe, everything. I mean, scary, okay? So anyway, he talked about that financial collapse. There's going to be lean times for Americans for a couple of years. And he said people should prepare for that. And he also said that for this election, he said to pray for Pennsylvania. That the election fraud gets revealed. And he's with a pretty good sized church. They're actually a reputable church. I mean, this isn't just some kook, okay? I mean, that's the point I'm making. So, for some reason, he's a seer, and he's been more accurate than not accurate. And he said that through prayer, this fraud is going to be revealed. And he said in a vision he had, he saw a container building, a metal container building, he called it. You know what a container building is? It's just basically a large metal shed with garage doors on it. And he said he saw Hispanic women at a whole bunch of white tables. He said there was a whole bunch of white tables with steel chairs with these Hispanic women working the tables. Then he said there was these pods with people inside. Now, it's not like you think, like some kind of weird sci-fi thing, like a pod, like Attack of the Pod People or something. He's talking about shipping containers. You know, like when you're going to move and you rent one of those pods, they come and they leave it in your driveway. Then you put your stuff in it, and then somebody comes, picks it up, and delivers it where you want it. That's the pods he's talking about. And he said there are illegals in it who were promised asylum for doing something very bad. That's what he said in his vision. He said God told him this. Just telling you what he said. So, if you want to know who this guy is, I'll leave you a link for his YouTube under your comment. So I'm not going to throw it out here now. And I don't really remember his name. I'll probably get it wrong, but I have it bookmarked. Gladly share it with you. You judge for yourself. But I did watch his Trump assassination prediction video, uploaded on YouTube March 14th. So there's no lying in that. And so 3 months later, almost 4 months later, the assassination attempt happened. And then he comes on and does a live stream just moments after it happened, and was talking about it. So very interesting. Anyway, he says there's this metal container building, white tables, Hispanic women behind the tables, metal chairs, and he called it a steel building, which is one of those metal container buildings, they're called. You can buy one for about $50,000. Put it up anywhere you want to, really. Pretty easy to put together, prefabbed. So it's not within the realm of impossibility of some remote place on private land. They install this metal container building and do an illegal ballot operation there, which is what he's talking about. So he was talking about that, and to pray, because then you could intercede what's going to happen through prayer. If people pray and they pray for them to get caught, he said God told him to spread the message to tell people to pray for that. So pray for that. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, is it? And he's been praying for that with hundreds of other people. And that new voter registration fraud thing that happened popped out, didn't it? So there you have it, right? Anyway, all right, sorry about that. I had a crisis. Anyway, back to what I was talking about with the election. He was suggesting that people pray for the fraud to be found and the cheating to be taken care of, and for these people that were going to do bad things. And he said that in his vision that he was given by God, he says, I'm just telling you what he said, that these people at the white tables, these Hispanic women who were illegals, he said, promised asylum, and these people that were in the pods, which obviously has to do with fake ballots, they were promised asylum for doing this illegal act. And then he said that loose lips sink ships, and that these people that participated in that would be dealt with. And he said that's the best way to put it. They're going to be gotten rid of, okay? And no, I know it's heavy duty stuff. He said they are going to be, he said they were lied to, deceived, because desperate people do desperate things. Now, he doesn't elaborate on what's done. I'm assuming he meant election fraud. I don't think it would have to do with an election day terrorist attack. I hope not. But he said something's going to happen. There's nothing we can do about it, so pray. So I don't know what he meant by that. But he was right about the Trump assassination, okay? And he wasn't just right about it. He didn't come out and just say, somebody's going to try to kill Trump this summer. I mean, I said that. You said that. The point I'm making is that somebody did try to do that, but this guy had given specifics. He said that Trump's ear was going to get shot. He said that it was going to bust his eardrum, which it didn't. But the point being, okay, this guy doesn't know anything about firearms. The point is, he probably just, assumed that that's what would happen. But he said Trump's ear would be injured. That's what he said, exactly in the video. And he would drop down on the stage, and at that moment, he would have a newfound, born-again feelings for God and Christ. And that Christ had chosen him and kept him safe and protected him. He said in his vision, and this goes along with that same clip where he's talking about Trump's assassination, okay? He said that he had plans for Trump in the United States. He was not done God was not done with America yet, because the world needs it. And he said that God knows that the United States of America is past the point of being able to repair itself. And I believe that too. And he said somebody like Trump is somebody that would be a really effective tool in creating a new revival in America. Hi, how are you? So I thought that was really interesting. And anyway, like I said, if you want to know more about this guy, I will gladly leave you a link. And I really will. I'll gladly leave you a link to the YouTube channel of his. Now, he's got a couple of videos on there, I'll admit. I kind of like... But, as always, you should not just foolishly follow people for no reason and believe everything they say. Always question everything, but he's interesting to watch regardless. And he did get that prediction right. So he also talks about a major earthquake on the Madrid fault line. If you're not familiar with that is cuts right across the Mississippi River. It's a fault line that isn't, you know, like in California where you have like one fault line. You know, the San Andreas fault, you can follow it for miles. It's not like that. It's several small ones. And in 1811 to 1812, okay, so it's going back a long ways. A lot of that was, it had I think it was a 6.0 or 7.0 earthquake on the Richter scale, which they didn't use then. But the point being, historically, there was a major earthquake there in the early 1800s. And well, they took their please don't vote for Trump sign down. That's where that was. They took it down. So anyway, he says there's going to be another major earthquake there. And he said it's going to coincide at some point after the complete solar eclipse we had this year. He said it's going to happen in the future. He didn't give specifically when. So there's a lot of vagueness, but there's also a lot of content he has where he's very specific. So he just tells what he was told by God, presumably. So I'm just telling you. And watch that if you want to or not. Take it for its entertainment value, maybe put some validity to it by his comments and referencing what he said. I don't know, but I can see the dollar collapsing. I can see the United States coming up with its own currency with our allies. So it would be us against them. He talks about a new flag, a new Muslim flag, he said, in the future, which is going to have all these Muslim countries, Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Pakistan, Turkey, all these countries are going to be in their own coalition, kind of like what you have with Europe. They're going to have their own currency, and they're going to be full of war. And he actually had an image of the flag that he saw in his vision. He didn't know what it meant, and there were 5 red stars on the top, across the top. He didn't know what that meant. Presumably the 5 major countries involved in it. So I would assume, I don't know what happens with Russia and China since they're not Muslim, and they are the 2 bigger financial centers, so I don't know how all of that works. Again, I'm just telling you what he said. But he did show an image that he made to show the flag that he saw. And then he said somebody that watches his ministry sent him an email with the old Afghanistan flag. And it looked like a carbon copy of the one he saw. Now, you could easily say, well, the guy knew that when he said it, you know, and he's setting people up. But again, he's got stuff on his channel that is evidenced. It's evidenced that it happened before it happened, and he said it was going to happen, and it happened. So he has validity to some degree. He's not 100% accurate, but he's in the ballpark a lot of times. So this is all important stuff. A little dog over there wants to kill me. A little vicious attack dog. So anyway, that's one of those things that nobody has ever been able to explain people like that, but I do believe people like that exist. And I do believe that God and Jesus do talk to certain people. And sometimes people roll their eyeballs at me with stuff like that. I really don't care. But my doggy friend, she's barking at me. So we're going to be passing the Halloween decorations over here. But it's during the daytime, so I'm not going to stop and film it. We'll come by here some other night, nighttime. We'll wait for this car. I want to get in that guy's way. Busy street like that. I've seen enough people on this street get rear-ended while they're waiting to turn, so I just graciously stood across the street and allowed him to go. So anyway, hope you're enjoying this walk with me today. This is all very interesting stuff, okay? It's, sometimes you just can't argue with something. I'd like to find a way to disprove this guy, but I haven't been able to. And I always try to disprove somebody first. Oh, come on, he uploaded it on this day, changed the time on it. You can't do that with YouTube. You upload the video, it's there, it's time-stamped, end of story. So, plus this guy had his videos on the internet before the assassination attempt. So, pretty wild stuff. So anyway, the Democrats today are very upset. To get back on that. Oh, I wanted to talk about that earthquake. He said there's going to be an earthquake at the Madrid fault line. And it was going to be really bad. He said in his vision he saw that trees were in the process of renewing, he said. They had little leaves, he said, but they were small and they were growing. So that means it's going to be in the spring. And he said also it was early in the morning when it happened. But in his vision, he said, he saw big military Chinook helicopters flying supplies to people that need them because the damage is absolutely devastating. And he mentioned something about the Mississippi River and massive flooding, which is what would happen with that, because the Madrid fault line has several small fault lines. Depending on which one or how many, the Mississippi River could actually, the ground could shift so much that it could divert the river. And a 10.0 earthquake, like the 11.0 that hit Alaska in the 60s, whole streets split in half when you had 20, 30 foot lifts of ground. It was very violent, very severe in a then sparsely populated area. And the last time an earthquake happened around Illinois, Indiana, around the Madrid fault line, was 1811, 1812. and it caused massive damage. Thankfully, not many people were living there then, but he said in his vision that people that have like concrete foundations or cinder block foundations, their houses just came down flat. He said hundreds of thousands of people are going to die when that happens, and I believe that too. And he said a lot of it's going to be from flooding, because part of the Mississippi River is actually going to divert from where it usually goes, and it's going to find its way through the countryside, okay? And when it does that, it's going to flood a lot of places. And this has happened before geologically, so this is based in fact. In fact, geologists claim that at one point in time there was an earthquake so severe in the Madrid fault line that the Mississippi River actually flowed backwards for a short way, changed its entire course, and then eventually eroded some land away, made its way back to what it was supposed to do. But there is archaeological evidence showing that. So a lot of this is based in fact. It's just really interesting to hear about that. And he said, you know, all these bridges and roads will be unusable. Yeah, we saw a little bit of that from Hurricane Helene. Saw how much chaos that caused. And that was just a small part of a state. Now picture that for hundreds of miles along the Madrid fault line with the mighty Mississippi. So it's not within the realm of possibility of 300,000 people dying or whatever. So it's very interesting, right? And so that's all very intriguing. It's all very interesting, I think. And I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about that. So I always try to have different stuff to talk about in my walks. I try to anyway, but you know, with the election, I end up beating a dead horse with it. But if you watched the Trump rally yesterday in Michigan, he had the prominent Muslim clerics and the imam, as well as a Muslim mayor, have all endorsed Trump. So when the Muslims get the blessing from their imam, IMAM, it's like their religious cleric leader, giving their blessing to vote for this person, it's a huge deal. Now, arguably, there's 150,000 Muslim Americans in Michigan. It's supposed to be the largest concentration of Muslims in America, and they're American citizens, Arabs. Trump is polling very high with Arabs right now. Now, some of these people are still going to vote for Kamala, free country. The poll I saw, 17% are probably not going to vote at all. They don't want to vote for Kamala or Trump. Trump is around 50% of what's left after that. So about 50% of them to 59%, depending on the poll you look at, are going to be voting for Trump out of 150,000 people. That's a big deal, because traditionally they would always vote for the Democrats, and they're not going to. Now, I haven't seen any consistent polling having to do with the Jewish vote, but I cannot imagine Jewish people are happy with Biden or Kamala. And Trump is just basically saying, I'm not picking a side. I just want the wars to end. I want the dying to stop. In other words, I don't care who started it. I don't care this or that. I want it to stop. That's what people want to hear. These people want the killing to stop. And the Democrats miss that message. Like they miss every other message. You know, just like they miss, you know, parents don't want kids being mutilated and this transgender ideology stuff. And the Democrats, I mean, they're wondering why people are voting for Trump when Trump gets up and says we're going to end that. They can't wrap their head around it. So Trump's doing all the right things. He'll win. It's not going to be easy after he wins. It's not going to be easy while he's winning. Nothing is ever going to be easy with Trump. But he's going to win. Keep the faith. Make sure you vote. And I think I'll change the battery now. All right, got a new battery. All right, so we got the rally at Madison Square Garden today. I'm going to be watching it shortly. Hope you are as well. Hopefully it goes smoothly with no hiccups, nothing bad happening. This is the time also you should probably pray for Trump's safety. They do not want him to get elected, and they're very desperate right now. Now, I'm not saying anybody is going to do anything associated with our government, but there's a whole bunch of radical lunatics running around the countryside that own firearms, and we need to pray for the safety of Trump and also for Kamala. So we don't want any political violence, none. So we need to have peace and quiet. We need to have a fair election with democracy. It's really important this year. And that's why I think Trump winning the national vote would go a long way to sending a message to the Democrats that the people do not want your bullshit. So it would go a long way. I've been seeing some Democrats coming out realizing they're losing to Trump, talking about unity and saying we need to listen to people more because obviously they're not happy with the Democratic Party. Well, no shit, Sherlock, right? So anyway, we got voting coming up. A record number of people have early voted, and to this point in time there's still 10 days left to the election. But at this point in time, Republicans are outperforming Democrats with early voting. And it's going to get to a certain point very shortly. And this is why I'm waiting for that. And I'm not going to get too high on whether or not Trump's going to win. But I really feel at this point, with what I know, he's going to win. But I'm not ready to sing and dance about it yet, okay? I guess that's really important. Don't count on anything till you have it in your hand. We could have a national terrorist attack on voting day, and pretty much all of these voting places all locked down and they call off voting for a while. We could have something like that. Anything could happen. Anything. God forbid, okay? But it's going to get to a certain point soon where mathematically, it will be a very tough call for Democrats to all show up on voting day, because they traditionally don't do that. They almost always, the majority of their votes come by mail-in ballots. It's been like that since 2016. The Republicans have finally caught on. And thus far, in the battleground states, we're outperforming Democrats. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. That's why the Democrats are scared. Because they understand about 4 or 5 days from now, the lead that the Republicans have is going to be insurmountable. In other words, it will officially be a landslide that the Democrats just don't show up on voting day. So that's why I was telling you, the media, once they see that, are really going to turn on the jets and say, well, it looks like Trump won. The only chance you got is to show up and vote, as a last-minute effort to try to get people to show up and vote, finally. But I just think a lot of people just don't like Kamala. And a lot of people don't like Trump. And there lies the problems for the Democrats. If Kamala was a likable candidate, had good policies, spoke like a great politician, Trump would have been blown away this year. All this legal stuff going on and the media negativity, he would not have overcome it. He'd still be as popular as he is now, but you'd have more enthusiasm for Democrats. And that's really what the problem is. As it looks right now, they're going to have to rely heavily on young Democrats showing up to vote, which traditionally they don't. Traditionally, they don't vote. And a lot of them did vote in 2020. How many of them are going to vote this year? We have no idea of knowing. But we don't have a pandemic. And traditionally, by all the numbers shown, Democrats would have to seriously overperform any of their past voting day performances. I mean, they'd have to show up almost like in miracle numbers at the last minute, according to the early voting and absentee voting numbers now. Democrats are in trouble, absolutely. And they don't want to talk about it, but they're in big trouble. Some of the outlets are starting to talk about it, and they're starting to get more desperate in their rhetoric. Jake Tapper is one of them. He was actually earlier today was interviewing J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance just looked at him to his face and said, "You guys have been lying to the public. You did it with the Russian collusion, and now you're doing it with this story with Trump." And he goes, "The American people are tired of this. You guys are a fraud." And he said it right to his face. And Jake Tapper, you could tell he was seething angry. It was one of the most beautiful clips I have seen. J.D. Vance is a killer. He really is. So I hope you get a chance to see that. He sat down and did an interview with Jake Tapper this weekend. Wow, right? And then, of course, you had Trump doing a 3-hour appearance with Joe Rogan, who broke internet records. I think he had 17 million viewers. You know, he usually does about anywhere from 8 to 10 million. So he got more viewers than ever, and Trump interviewed for 3 hours. And you got to see Trump was a human being. Millions of people are seeing clips of that on the internet. So by the time the election comes, pretty much everybody that votes will have seen some kind of clip from that. He had no bad moments. It was really good. And that's going to help him a lot. People will see he's just a person like everybody else. He's not a Hitler. So cut across here. We got the wind. So we'll walk a little bit more. We'll wrap this up. Got these leaves blowing around all over the place. It's what you call blustery. So as I've said on the past few walks, we got ourselves a ball game, folks. I feel so good. I really do. I really hope you feel good. Yes, it's nail-biting, it's nerve-wracking, but I'm seeing really good things. I'm feeling excitement in a good way. So, I think the election is not going to be as close as people are calling it, and Trump should win. You know, that's the other thing I'll talk about in the last couple of minutes here. You got to keep in mind what Kamala has to win. She has to have Minnesota, which looks like she probably will. She has to have Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. She has to have all three. All three, okay? All three of these right now, Trump's leading by a point, point and a half, 2 points. He's leading in Georgia by 2 points, North Carolina by a point, which I think that number is wrong. And she's not leading anywhere. She's leading in Minnesota, and she's almost about tied in Nevada. That's it. That's it. And she has to win Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Now, Trump can win the election just winning Pennsylvania. He can win the election just winning Michigan and losing Pennsylvania. See, he's got wiggle room. She doesn't. She's got no wiggle room at all. And it's just mathematical at this point. So, yeah, mathematically, Trump can still lose. She could all of a sudden just overperform in all of those 3 states, or she could steal North Carolina, which means Trump would have to win Pennsylvania and Michigan, both to win. But I will fall back on over the last 52 years, I think, anybody that has won Michigan also won Pennsylvania, regardless of party. They seem to be tied together. So if Trump wins Michigan, he's going to win Pennsylvania. If you look at those stats, it's not a guarantee, but I'm just saying, if you're playing odds and you're looking at that stuff, which, by the way, the odds markets have Trump winning the election, 65% chance, where just 2 months ago he had a 42% chance. So, and that's the betting market with real money. So people are betting on Trump. It's just how it is. I don't know what else to say. Theoretically, Trump should win this election. So, anyways, thanks for walking with me. Click like and subscribe. Watch Trump at Madison Square Garden, which by the time you see this, it will have already happened. And we will see you on the next walk, friends. Thank you very much for walking with me. God bless you. And pray for Trump, pray for Pennsylvania, and pray for the election to be fair. Bye-bye.